Emily stood at the school gate, her hands holding a small, worn-out bag. She was new to the neighborhood, and this was her first day at West Hill High. The buildings looked cold. The students looked louder, meaner. She walked in slowly, keeping her head down. Emily was not like the others. She didn't wear expensive clothes. She didn't laugh loudly. She didn't have a group of friends. She was quiet, soft-spoken, and always kind. That made her different. And in this school, different meant weak. By the end of her first week, the whispers had already started. Who is she? She's weird. She doesn't talk. Maybe she's scared. The bullies noticed her quickly. The group was led by Ryan. Tall, loud, and always surrounded by trouble. He liked showing power. And Emily? She looked like the perfect target. One day, in class, Ryan walked past her desk and knocked her pencil case onto the floor. Oops, he smiled. Emily just bent down and picked it up without a word. The next day, his friend Julia pulled her chair slightly before she sat down. Emily fell hard and hit her elbow. Laughter filled the room. Emily said nothing. She never told the teacher, never cried, never fought. But every evening after school, she would sit in her small room and draw. Her notebooks were full of pencil sketches, animals, trees, faces, and mostly her brother, Jack. Her older brother, Jack, was in the army. He was strong, brave, and always protected her when he was home. Before leaving, he had given her a small necklace and said, "If they ever make you feel small, hold this. I'll come back soon." Emily missed him every single day, but she never told him about the bullying in her letters. She didn't want him to worry. One rainy afternoon, Emily was sitting in the school library. It was her favorite place. Quiet. Safe. She took out her special notebook, the one filled with drawings for Jack. She was adding a new one, a drawing of the two of them sitting on a hill, watching the stars. She didn't hear the footsteps behind her. "Hey, what's that?" Ryan snatched the notebook before she could close it. "Give it back." Emily stood up quickly, her voice shaking. He flipped through the pages. "Aw, is this your brother? What are you, 5?" His friends laughed. Julia ripped one page out and held it up. "Looks like a baby made this." Emily reached for it, but Ryan pulled it away and tore the page in half. "No," she gasped. But they didn't stop. They laughed louder, tearing more pages. One by one, the drawings she had worked on for months were destroyed. Her heart felt heavy. Her hands shook. When they finally walked away, leaving the notebook in pieces on the table, Emily sat down slowly. She picked up each torn drawing, her eyes filled with silent tears. No one helped her. No one said a word. She sat alone, surrounded by pieces of her heart. She didn't cry out loud. She didn't scream. Instead, she gathered the pages carefully, placed them back into the notebook, and closed it gently. She looked at the cover, now bent and dirty. Then she whispered under her breath, "He's coming home soon." Far away from Emily's small world, in the middle of a dry, hot desert, Jack was on duty. His boots pressed into the sand, his eyes always alert. The sun was burning above him, but he didn't feel it anymore. He had been a soldier for 3 years now. He had seen danger. He had seen pain. But nothing hurt him more than missing home, and missing his little sister. At night, when the camp was quiet, Jack sat alone under a weak light with a pen in hand. He always wrote to Emily. His letters were full of stories. How he helped save a village. How he fixed a broken engine with just a spoon. How his team called him the Quiet Storm. He told her jokes, shared thoughts, and always ended with, "I'll be home soon, Em. Just stay strong. I've got your back. Always." Emily kept every letter in a small wooden box under her bed. She never told him about the bullies. She didn't want to make him sad or angry. She only wrote about her drawings, her dreams, and how proud she was of him. But after the library incident, something inside her broke. That night, she sat in her room and wrote a new letter. Her hands were shaking. Dear Jack, I didn't want to tell you this before. I thought I could handle it. But it's hard. Every day they hurt me. Not with fists, but with words, laughs, and silence. They destroy my drawings. They call me names. They say I don't belong. I try to stay strong, like you taught me. But sometimes it feels too heavy. I miss you. I wish you were here. Love, Emily. She stared at the letter for a long time. Then, instead of hiding it like the others, she sealed it and mailed it the next morning. 3 weeks later, on the other side of the world, Jack received the envelope. He knew her handwriting right away. He smiled as he opened it, but the smile didn't last. His eyes moved over every line. His hands clenched tighter with each word. By the end of the letter, he was silent. Then he stood up, walked to his commander's tent, and asked one thing. Sir, I need to go home. My sister needs me. The commander looked at him, the soldier who never asked for anything, the one who always volunteered for the hardest missions. The commander nodded. You have 1 week. Make it count. Back home, Emily had no idea what was coming. The bullying didn't stop. Ryan and his gang were louder now. Meaner. They knocked her lunch tray over in the cafeteria. They stuck gum to her locker. They laughed when she walked past. And still, Emily said nothing. She just kept whispering to herself, he's coming. Nobody believed her. Nobody cared. One cold Friday afternoon, school ended as usual. The hallway emptied. Emily walked out alone, clutching her bag tightly. She didn't see the car parked across the street. Inside it, a man sat wearing army boots and a brown jacket. His face was rough from the road, eyes tired, but sharp. He watched her walk. He saw how slowly she moved, how she kept her eyes on the ground. Jack was home, and his heart was burning with one thought. They messed with the wrong sister. Emily froze. The bag slipped from her hand and hit the ground. Her eyes widened. She blinked twice to make sure it was real. There he was, Jack, standing across the street, dressed in his brown army jacket and black boots, his face rough but kind, just like she remembered. For a moment, Emily couldn't move. Then, like something broke inside her, she ran. Jack opened his arms, and she crashed into him. Tears spilled from her eyes as he wrapped her in a tight hug. He didn't say much. He just whispered, I'm here now. For the first time in months, Emily felt safe. They walked home together in silence. Jack carried her bag. Emily kept glancing at him, like she was afraid he'd disappear again. At home, she finally broke down. She told him everything. Every word, every shove, every tear she had hidden. Jack didn't interrupt. He just listened. And when she was done, he looked her in the eyes and said, You should have told me sooner. But now, they'll learn. The next morning, Emily woke up early. Jack was already in the kitchen, cooking eggs like he used to. She smiled for the first time in days. Are you going somewhere today? She asked. Jack nodded. Yeah, I have to meet someone. He didn't say who. Meanwhile, at school, Ryan and his gang were already planning another trick. She's probably crying somewhere again, Julia smirked. Ryan laughed. Let's make her disappear this time. They didn't know Jack was watching them. He was standing across the street, leaning against a wall, arms folded. He watched Ryan push a small kid near the lockers. He saw Julia stealing someone's pen and laughing. Jack didn't move yet, but he was taking notes. Later that day, he walked into the school office. The secretary looked up. Can I help you? I need to speak to the principal, Jack said, calm but firm. She gave him a strange look. Do you have an appointment? I don't need one. Inside the principal's office, Jack sat across from Mr. Hayes, a man who looked more tired than strict. I'm Jack Miller, he said. Emily Miller's brother. Yes, I've heard of her, the principal replied, unsure. She's being bullied, Jack said flatly, and your school is ignoring it. Mr. Hayes sighed. We try our best, Mr. Miller, but kids will be kids. Jack leaned forward, his voice colder now. This isn't kids being kids. This is harassment. And you're letting it happen. The principal blinked. He had dealt with angry parents before. But Jack was different. He wasn't shouting. He wasn't begging. He was calm. Too calm. And behind that calm was a storm. I'm not here to argue, Jack said. I'm here to tell you one thing. He placed a USB drive on the desk. What's this? Mr. Hayes asked. Proof. Videos. I've been watching them. I recorded everything. Your students. Your staff. The way no one steps in. The principal picked up the USB slowly. If you don't fix this, Jack added, standing up, I will. And trust me, you won't like how I do it. Then he walked out. That afternoon, Emily walked out of school again. The same corner. The same time. But this time, Jack wasn't just watching. He was waiting. As Ryan and his gang followed her again, laughing, whispering, Jack stepped in from behind a tree. Ryan stopped. The others froze. Jack walked right up to them and looked Ryan in the eye. You like picking on people smaller than you? He asked. Ryan laughed nervously. Who are you supposed to be? I'm the guy who just made you famous. Ryan looked confused. Jack pulled out his phone. A live stream. The bullies' faces were on camera. Thousands were watching. The title on the stream. Meet the kids who think bullying is cool. Ryan's smile faded. You want to be tough, Jack said. Let the world see how tough you really are. Ryan reached to grab the phone, but Jack stepped back. Try me. His voice was low, dangerous. Ryan's hand dropped. Jack turned to Emily. Let's go. That night, Ryan's video went viral. Students were whispering. Teachers were watching. The school couldn't ignore it now. The bullies weren't laughing anymore. The video changed everything. By Monday morning, the school was different. Whispering filled the hallways. Students walked faster. Teachers were more alert. Everyone had seen the video of Jack, Emily's brother, confronting Ryan and his gang. Some students were cheering for Emily in secret. Others just stayed silent. But Ryan? He didn't look so tough anymore. He walked with his head down, his crew smaller than before. People gave him looks, not the respectful kind, but the we saw who you really are kind. Emily felt the shift. But she also knew this wasn't over. Bullies don't just disappear. They get quieter and meaner. Jack wasn't at school that day. But that didn't mean he was gone. He had a plan. That morning, while Emily was in class, Jack visited people, one by one. First, he found Mr. Benson, the janitor. Hey, Jack said, you see what those kids do, right? Mr. Benson nodded slowly. Yeah, but nobody listens to the janitor. They'll listen now, Jack replied. He handed Mr. Benson a small mic, hidden in a pen. Just record what you hear. That's all I need. Next, Jack went to the old security guard, Mr. Lorne. The man squinted at him. What do you want, soldier? I want to stop the pain before it gets worse. Lorne didn't say much, but he gave Jack access to the school cameras, the ones even the principal didn't know worked anymore. Then Jack went to his last stop, the art teacher, Miss Grace. She was young, kind, and always encouraged Emily's drawings. She's a good kid, Miss Grace said. Better than anyone gives her credit for. She deserves better, Jack replied. Help me make sure she gets it. While Jack moved in silence, Emily faced a storm. Ryan wasn't done. He couldn't hit her in the open anymore, so he tried a different way. That afternoon, Emily found her locker covered in red paint. The words "cry baby" were splashed across the metal. Everyone saw. Some laughed. Some looked away. Emily stood frozen. And then she saw it. Her favorite drawing, torn in half, taped beside the word. Her hands shook. Her face went red. But she didn't cry. Not this time. She turned around and found Jack standing at the hallway's end. He didn't say anything. He just gave a small nod. Emily nodded back. It was time to stop hiding. That evening, Jack pulled out a whiteboard at home and showed Emily everything. All these names, he said, pointing, are the ones who've helped Ryan. Some bullied you. Some just watched. Some laughed. Some walked away. Emily stared at the board. What are you going to do? Not me, Jack said. We. He handed her a small notebook. Inside were plans, clean, smart, and peaceful. They weren't about revenge. They were about truth. They would gather facts, videos, and witnesses. They would expose not just the bullies, but the system that allowed it. The world already saw one video, Jack said. Now let's show them everything. Over the next few days, Emily and Jack became a quiet storm. They collected recordings, notes, pictures, stories from other students who were too scared to speak before. And finally, they were ready. They created a new video, a full story, not just about Emily, but about every silent victim, every kid who was laughed at, every teacher who ignored the signs. They titled it, "This is What You Didn't See." Jack uploaded it late at night. Emily sat beside him, her fingers shaking. When she went to bed, she couldn't sleep. When she woke up, everything changed. By morning, the video had 1.2 million views. Parents called the school. Reporters arrived. And Ryan, he didn't show up at all. Cliffhanger. Just as Emily walked into school with her head high, the principal's voice came on the intercom. "Emily Miller, please come to the office. There's someone here to see you." She entered the room and froze. It wasn't Jack. It was Ryan's dad, in a suit with a very serious look. Emily stepped into the principal's office slowly. She expected to see Jack. Instead, sitting across from Principal Hayes was a tall man in a sharp black suit. His hair was neat, his tie tight, and his face unreadable. Next to him stood Ryan, head down, hands in his pockets, eyes refusing to meet hers. The man stood up and offered a hand. "Emily," he said, "I'm Mr. Carson, Ryan's father." Emily didn't shake his hand. She just stared. "I saw the video," Mr. Carson said. "The first one, and now, the second. I'm ashamed, and I'm sorry." The room was silent. Principal Hayes shifted uncomfortably in his chair. "I didn't know how bad it was," Mr. Carson continued. "I thought Ryan was just being a teenager. I didn't realize he was hurting people. That he hurt you." Emily said nothing. Ryan still didn't look up. "I asked for this meeting," Mr. Carson said softly, "because I believe in—" Emily stared at her phone screen. The message was short, cold, and full of danger. "You think this is over? We're just getting started." She read it again. Jack leaned closer, his eyes scanning the words. His jaw tightened. "Did you block your number after the video?" he asked. Emily nodded. "Yes. I deleted all social apps. I even changed my email." Jack took the phone gently and began checking it. "This isn't Ryan. He's scared. Someone else is behind this." Emily's heart began to race. She had thought it was over. The apology, the video, the silence at school. It all felt like the end of something dark. But now, it was only the beginning. That night, Jack stayed up late on his laptop, digging into data, searching through old school forums, burner profiles, and usernames. He wasn't just trained for war. He was trained to find threats before they exploded. He found something. A group chat. Private. Hidden behind layers. The name. Project Payback. Inside were messages from students, some from Emily's school, others from nearby schools. Names she didn't recognize. But the hate was clear. They were angry about the video, angry that the bullies got exposed, and they blamed Emily for it. She thinks she's a hero. Let's make her beg. Time to show her what pain feels like. Jack copied everything. He wasn't angry. He was calm. Dead calm. That's how Emily knew he was ready to act. The next morning, Jack walked Emily to school again. But this time, he had an earpiece in his ear. This time, he wasn't just watching. He was protecting. "I want you to go to class like normal," he told Emily. "But stay alert. If anything happens, anything, you press this." He handed her a small silver button, the size of a coin. "It's not a weapon, just a signal. I'll be there before anyone blinks." Emily nodded. "I trust you." In the hallway, Emily noticed it immediately. The looks, the silence. It was different now. Some students looked at her with fear, others with hate. She wasn't the bullied girl anymore. She was the girl who took down the cool ones. To some, that made her a threat. By third period, it happened. Emily opened her locker, and a burst of black powder sprayed out. Her hands and shirt were covered in dark ink. A note was taped inside. "Now the whole world sees your black heart." Laughter echoed down the hallway. She froze, then remembered Jack's words. She pressed the silver button. 10 seconds later, Jack was beside her. He didn't speak. He looked at the ink, then the note. He took pictures. And then he walked. Fast. He went to the school office, straight to the principal. But Principal Hayes looked tired, afraid. "Jack," he said softly, "I'm getting pressure from the district, from parents, from students. I can't handle this anymore." Jack stepped closer. "Then let me handle it." That night, Jack uploaded a new video. This one wasn't just about Emily. It was about the movement. He exposed the private chat. He blurred names, for now, but he read the messages out loud. He showed proof of hate growing inside the school system. He called out everyone who stayed silent. And at the end, he looked into the camera and said, "You want war? You came to the wrong family." The video exploded online. This time, it wasn't just one school talking. It was the whole country. Newscasters debated it. Teachers watched it in meetings. Parents called the school board. The government started looking into cyberbullying laws. But still, the shadows moved, and they had one final plan. Cliffhanger. That night, Jack got an email. It had no text, just one photo. Emily, at school, taken from behind a fence. The caption, "Next time, we won't miss." Jack stood up, eyes burning. "They're watching her," he said. Then he reached for a locked case under his bed. Emily whispered, "What are you doing?" Jack answered, "I tried peace. Now, I go back to who I was trained to be." The room went quiet as Jack opened the black case under his bed. Inside was a folded uniform, dog tags, a worn-down knife, and a photo of his old team. Soldiers standing shoulder to shoulder in the desert heat. He hadn't touched it in years. Emily stood frozen at the door, watching her brother change. Not just his clothes, his face, his eyes. This was not the same big brother who drew with her or sat at the kitchen table helping with homework. This was the soldier, the protector, the man war had shaped. Jack loaded a small black bag with gear, nothing lethal, but nothing gentle either. He looked at Emily. "I never wanted you to see this side of me," he said quietly. Emily walked over and hugged him. "I'm not scared," she whispered. "Not anymore." Jack pulled back. "You should be, because they crossed a line." That morning, Jack followed Emily to school, but stayed in the shadows, not just watching, hunting. He wasn't guessing anymore. He had a list of names from the secret group chat, and he had a plan. The first target, a student named Kyle. Kyle was sitting outside, laughing with two others, a normal morning for him, until Jack sat down across from them. Without a word, just a quiet stare. The boys looked confused, then nervous. "Who are you?" Kyle asked, trying to sound tough. Jack leaned forward. "You sent a photo of my sister from behind a fence." Kyle's face turned white. "I didn't take it." "But you shared it," Jack interrupted. "You laughed. You helped." Kyle stood up, but Jack was faster. He pulled out a small USB drive and slid it across the table. "Everything you sent. Everything your group posted. I copied it. It's in the hands of your school, your parents, and the police." Kyle looked like he wanted to run. Jack didn't let him. "One more step toward my sister, and I promise you'll wish it was just the police knocking on your door." By lunchtime, half the school knew Jack was around. He didn't hide. He moved like a shadow, showing up in places no one expected. He didn't hurt anyone, but he didn't have to. Fear did the work for him. The group chat went silent. One by one, the members started leaving. But the storm wasn't over yet. That afternoon, Emily was called into the school auditorium. When she arrived, the lights were low. A spotlight hit the stage. Principal Hayes stood at the center. Beside him, Jack. And then, something Emily never imagined. Ryan, holding a mic. "Emily," Ryan said, voice shaking, "I don't deserve this chance, but I'm going to speak anyway." He looked out at the crowd. "When we hurt people, we think it ends when the joke is over. But it doesn't. It stays. It builds, until someone finally says, 'Enough.'" He paused. Emily said it. Jack made sure the world heard it. The crowd was quiet. Ryan turned to Emily. "I used to think power was making people afraid. But now I see, real strength is standing alone when no one claps for you." He handed the mic to Jack. Jack cleared his throat. "I didn't come here to scare kids," he said. "I came because no one protected my sister. So I did what I was trained to do, defend." He looked straight at the audience. "But the truth is, Emily didn't need me to fight her battles. She already won." He stepped back, and the crowd rose. Applause. Loud. Real. For the girl they once ignored. That evening, as the sun set, Emily and Jack sat on the porch again. "I think it's over," Emily said. Jack nodded. "For now." She looked at him. "What if they come back?" He smiled slightly. "Then they'll meet a different version of us." Cliffhanger. Just as the sky turned dark, a car slowly rolled by their house. Tinted windows. No license plate. Emily stood. Jack was already reaching behind his back. The car paused, then drove off. Jack whispered. The silence before the next storm. The car disappeared down the street, but Jack didn't sit down. He stood there for a long time, eyes fixed on the corner. Emily waited behind him, silent, afraid but not broken. That car wasn't just a warning. It was a promise. Someone still hadn't learned. Someone wanted revenge. The next morning, Emily got a message in her locker. It was folded neatly like a note from a friend, but the words were sharp as a knife. "You and your brother made us look weak. You're both going to pay." Jack read it, then burned it. "This ends now," he said. Jack called someone that afternoon, someone he hadn't spoken to since the army. The man answered in a low voice, still picking fights with bullies. Jack smiled coldly. "No, I'm finishing one." That night, Jack installed cameras around the house. Not cheap ones, but military-grade motion sensors, heat trackers, and silent alarms. He trained Emily too. Not with weapons, with confidence. Where to stand, what to do, how to stay calm. Emily had already learned to face fear. Now she learned how to defend herself. Jack wasn't preparing her to hide. He was preparing her to rise. 2 nights later, it happened. At 3:14 a.m., a sensor beeped. Movement in the backyard. Then the side door creaked. Jack opened his eyes without moving. He already had the baseball bat in one hand and his phone in the other. 3 shadows entered the kitchen, dressed in black hoodies. They didn't know they were being recorded. They didn't know the police were already on their way. They didn't know Jack was waiting behind the hallway door. The first one stepped forward, and Jack moved like lightning. No words, just force. In 10 seconds, 2 of them were on the floor. The third tried to run, straight into a flashlight beam. Emily stood at the top of the stairs, not screaming, not crying, just watching. Calm. The police arrived 2 minutes later. The officers recognized Jack, and this time, they didn't laugh. They listened. They arrested the intruders, and they asked Emily if she wanted to press charges. She looked at her brother, then nodded. Yes. The video footage made headlines, not because of violence, but because of truth. It showed how far bullying can go. It showed what happens when no one listens. But most of all, it showed a teenage girl standing strong when the world tried to crush her. Weeks passed. The house grew quiet again. The school changed. Rules changed. Even the bullies' parents got involved. Some students transferred. Some were expelled. Others stayed and apologized. Truly, Emily didn't stay silent anymore. She joined a student council team for anti-bullying support. She gave a speech at a school assembly. Her voice still shook, but her eyes were strong. One morning, Jack found something on the porch. A letter. No name, just a few words. I was part of the group. I watched and said nothing. I'm sorry. Jack handed it to Emily. She read it, smiled a little, and placed it in a box. That box now held broken drawings and new dreams. That night, Emily and Jack sat outside again. The air was warm. The stars were bright. Emily leaned on her brother's shoulder. You saved me, she said softly. Jack shook his head. No, Em, you saved yourself. I just reminded them who they were messing with.